Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about using singles in your training as an effective tool for getting stronger. And what I mean by that is just doing one rep at a time. And it's a pretty simple concept, but it provides some pretty excellent opportunities and thus results if executed correctly. So the first reason that I use singles in my training is it allows me an opportunity to perfect my setup. And I have a mantra that says if the setup isn't done right, the lift won't be done right. And so kind of the idea here is just practicing the repetition of your setup. And for that, I refer back to a book that I read the first time when I was in Afghanistan in 2010. And I think I was at Kajaki Dam when I picked this book up. And you guys could probably Google that if you'd like. And so I was over there and reading this book, the Checklist Manifesto. And it kind of taught me one big thing, is that anything could be done by anyone so long as they have a checklist. It's more or less the idea. It's a pretty insane concept to think about, but it's one of those things. With a very well executed checklist, you can accomplish almost any task. And so by implementing that concept and using singles with that idea in mind, is it's going to give you the opportunity to turn your setup into a checklist. And if you can get so advanced, maybe you could turn every part of the squat, every significant position of the squat, from the standing to maybe the halfway down point to in the hole, and then that point where you may grind a little bit and then all the way standing up. You could turn all of that into a checklist perhaps. And then the only variable you got to worry about is what on the bar. So that's the first reason, is perfecting your setup, because if you can just set up perfectly, the chances of you getting the lift done perfectly is so much better. The second one would be limiting fatigue at high intensities. So here, by doing one rep at a time, I'm limiting my fatigue at high intensities because I'm not spending a lot of time under tension by doing multiple rep sets. So I can do many more sets over time. Sure, the workout's going to take longer, but I can accumulate some significant volume at a T1 range intensity if done with singles, and using well executed rest priorities, because even between these singles, I was still making sure I was getting at a minimum, like probably a minute and a half minimum. I was really trying to stay between a minute and a half and up to 3 minutes. And so by limiting my fatigue at high intensities, I get to accumulate more total volume per workout by using singles. The kind of shitty thing is you might be in the gym a while. Now that you have perfected your setup, and now you get to do more reps. So that's kind of like compounding interest for progress, right? So your setup is perfected, now you're using singles at these high intensities. And so there, as you're lifting at heavier and heavier weights, I'm sure some of you have noticed that your technique kind of moves and shifts around a little bit. I think we could all agree that maybe doing just the bar seems pretty awkward sometimes. And so when your setup is perfected, you get to do a lot more reps by doing singles. Now you get up to the weights where you kind of struggle at. And so there you get to improve your technique at that intensity. And that's a really important thing to think about, is your technique threshold, which is that point in which your technique breaks down, but you're still capable to finish the lift. That could be perhaps you have made it just past your sticking point, to where now your body's geometry allows you to just use that last bit of energy to complete the lift, just as an example. So now that we've got all these things dialed in, you've got a better setup, which allows you to have better technique during the lift, and you're using singles, so your fatigue is limited. You get to get more reps in because now that fatigue is limited, and those reps are now better because of the improved setup and the improved technique. So that's all this idea of compounding interest in your progress. So it's by putting together all of these little things, and I believe that singles give you a really good opportunity to do that at a very serious intensity in that T1 range. And, that's a very important aspect of your training, because if you want to get strong and lift heavy weights, you sort of have to do that sort of frequently, I feel. And singles are a great way to not injure yourself or pushing your fatigue too high, because you're doing so few reps per set. The fatigue is really going to be limited because you have a very limited time under tension. And so now that you've done all of those other things and you've really put the priority first in improving the quality of your lift, and quality is, something that accounts for both technique and speed, and, perhaps a few other things, perhaps how it feels when you're physically doing it, if the weight felt abnormally heavy, these different intrinsic things in the squat, these qualitative things, are parts of the quality of the rep. So now you're having better technique, better quality, all of these great, excellent things, but you haven't really pushed yourself because maybe the RPE rating is a little bit too low. For me, that 405 was maybe something like a 7, in that range. If I wanted to push it for up to 3 to 5 reps, it would be pretty difficult. So by keeping the RPE fairly low, because I know some of my readers and some of my watchers are fans of RPE and perhaps implement it in their training, that's kind of where the effort should be. But in your workouts, you also have to push yourself hard, and so that's why I use AMRAPs. And so I give myself a time limiter. I wanted to get about 14, 15 reps in about 40 minutes or so. So I got to about minute 35 to 37, I think. I was about the 10th set, so I said, perfect, I'll push myself and see if I can get 3 or more. I got 4 on the last set. That pushed me up to 14 reps, which is one shy of the T1 range limiter, which is great. So now I can accomplish near 15 repetitions in a single workout in a very recoverable fashion, and accomplish a whole lot of great things by using singles, and just it's going to pay dividends in my training. And this footage was from near a month ago, and if you go on my Instagram, you will see a 455 double that I hit this last weekend, and it was beautiful. So you guys, thanks for watching the video. I know this was a long narration at the end, but I felt like it required that extra little bit. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Hope you liked the video.